we're starting to see things in the younger generation that we typically would see in the 30, 40, 50-year-old generations.
Things like what?
Reverse curves in the neck. You're supposed to have like this banana-shaped forward, it's called a lordotic curve in the neck. And now we're actually seeing it go forward because, you know, we have people have their head down and they're either on a tablet, on a Chromebook, on a phone, and everything's in their hands. Yeah, dude. The kids, the shit I'm seeing on the back of their skull, they're growing horns. They're growing like bones that are extending on the back of their head because they're so flexed forward. The body's trying to create a calcification to try and grab their head and pull it back. Yeah. On 8-year-olds.
That's wild.
It's crazy. They're going to be an interesting group when they're 30.
The iGens?
Yeah.
The alphas?
Yeah.
They're starting to age now.
You can see, but a lot of them are like weirdly like
Rounded
forward.
Yeah. Welcome back to Struggle and Strive. I'm your host, Estel Wallace. Today, we've got an awesome interview with a friend of mine. His name is Dr. Moses Corbel. We're going to talk about faith. We're going to talk about family. We're going to talk about entrepreneurship. He's a chiropractor. He is the founder of Pure Life Chiropractic in Scottsdale. You're going to love today's interview. Let's get into it. Yeah, if there's something I do regularly that I probably ought not to, it's eat ice cream.
Yeah, mine's hookah.
Hookah, see, I don't know nothing about hookah.
Yeah,
I smoke cigars.
You date a Middle Eastern girl, it's game over.
And Lena is
Lebanese. Yeah.
So hookah's the thing.
It is definitely a thing.
How does hookah go down?
Oh man, it's
Walk me through
a
it.
social thing most of the time, right? Like
it's Friday after work. Lena's like, I want to go hookah. What do you do?
She'd rather do it at home, but literally you
okay.
just take your hookah, is what they call it, and you put what they call shisha, which is like a flavored molasses tobacco. Put it right on top, throw some coals on top of it, and you just sit there and kind of toke on it.
Interesting.
Similar to like the cigar setting, to be honest, if I had to compare it
You
to something.
sit around huffing on nicotine, laughing with your friends, telling stories.
Yep.
I vibe with that.
Eating pizza. Yeah.
I can vibe with that. Yeah, I smoke cigars, so
Yeah.
it's similar. Sit around, talk shit,
Yeah.
smoke, laugh,
Yeah.
tell
Cigars are
stories. You smoke cigars?
The ones I really like are the Rose, the Ecuadorian ones, the Oscar. They're very sweet. They have like a chocolate taste to the lips.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm pretentious around cigars. There's
Okay.
only a couple
All
kind
right.
I smoke.
Yeah.
Oddly, I don't smoke.
See,
any
I'm not
Cubans.
that educated in them, to be honest.
It's one of those things. Like that's an area where I'm very, very picky. But I'm also very narrow-minded, like picky.
That's okay.
I'm not like, I need the best of every brand. I only like a couple of brands.
Yeah. You like what you like.
Yeah.
And if you're going to splurge, there you go.
Yeah. Yeah. They have. So I only like Padrones and I like Fuente, but I only really like the Opus X line that they have. I saw one across the street. I smoked a cigar with a guy earlier today, and they had an Opus I haven't seen before, and I collect them.
Collect cigars.
Yeah, it's particularly Opus.
Okay.
Because I don't smoke them that often, and they're rare. They're harder to find. So if I see one I don't have or one I like, I'll snap up 3 or 4 or whatever.
Okay.
I rarely buy them by the box, but sometimes Padron
Yeah.
I buy by the box perpetually because I just smoke the shit out of them.
Nice.
Smoke them all
There's
the
a
time.
place you'd like that we go to Nashville and visit a couple times, maybe once a year. But we go there. We go to this place called the Red Phone Booth a couple times, and it is like a speakeasy that's specifically for cigars,
Cigar Lounge
and whiskeys.
Super dope.
It's phenomenal.
It's super dope. Cigar lounges in Arizona, most of them have liquor licenses now. So they've kind of turned into this vibey thing, and they didn't used to. They used to just be cigar lounges, and now pretty much all the really competitive ones all have bars in them, which is interesting.
Okay. Well, you make a little bit more money off the liquor, just a little.
Yeah, there's pretty good margin on cigars. I don't know that I'd ever want to, pivot into that business particularly, but
Yeah.
there's something romantic about owning a cigar shop and coming through, hanging out,
Sure.
talking trash with a bunch of the regulars.
You know, there's regulars.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So first of all, thank you for being here with me.
Of course, man.
I am fascinated. I've known you guys. Nicole and I have known you and Lena for, I don't know, it's been 5 years.
Yeah.
Probably about 5 years.
Since pretty close to when we started.
That's really so I would love to sort of learn about how you got into this. First of all, let's start with where are you from?
I'm from Bakersfield, California, Central California, kind of like a cow town.
I know exactly where Bakersfield. I've been stuck there before.
You could smell it before you see it.
So going to high school, you were like, I'm going to be a chiropractor. I'm going to open up lots of places. I'm going to rule the world.
No. So it all changed when I met my biology teacher, who was a chiropractor.
Okay.
And when I met him, he's like, hey, come visit my office on the weekend. And I'm like, okay. So I went and visited, kind of shadowed him and just kind of opened up a door. I was like, I knew I wanted to be something medical, but then I found myself leaning towards alternative forms of care, more holistic. And
Sure.
here we are today. Like it definitely is different than it was imagined at the time. And what I mean by that is I thought I'd be more in like the physical therapy, sports world.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I learned more about chiropractic in general and just how many different sectors of it there are, and I kind of started to pivot hard.
How old were you when you started to get more intentional about chiropractic?
I would say probably freshman year of college.
Okay.
That's when
so
I
you're
started.
like 19, 20,
Yeah.
21,
Yeah.
in that
19.
range. And where'd you go to school? Where'd you go to college?
I went to CSUB, Cal State Bakersfield, and then I transferred to SCUHS, Southern California University, Health and Sciences. So.
And you studied chiropractic.
I did. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So I got my 4-year in exercise science, and then a minor in biochem. And then I transferred to SCUHS, where I got my doctorate in chiropractic.
Dr. Moses Corbel.
Corbel.
All right. So you're studying chiropractic. What did you imagine the track was? Or, like what do budding chiropractors in college talk about? I'm going to go have my own practice, or I'm going to go, like, what's the next step directly after school?
You believe it or not, and I think this is the untold truth that most people in any form of doctoral program, or maybe most programs, is that they all plan to work for somebody. It's just the mindset that the schools are training you.
Sure.
They're teaching you to be an employee, which is fine. That's great. It's for somebody else. It's just not where my head was. There's ways I wanted to do things, and I knew if I decided to work for somebody that I was going to have to do it their way. And that kind of takes away the joy and the whole purpose of why I felt I was doing it.
Interesting. So when you were training, you were envisioning opening your own practice.
Yeah, there was no other option in my eyes.
And how did you end up in Arizona?
So I met my now wife. She's from Canada. We met in school. And
she was studying chiropractic?
Yeah, she was studying chiropractic.
A bunch of chiropractors in your family. Your brother's a chiropractor.
My brother's a chiropractor too. And
we
went to completely different schools.
Chiropractors?
No.
What do your parents do?
My mom actually is married, and she's a house. What do you call a house? Like a housewife, I guess.
Oh yeah,
she's a housewife.
Homemaker? Yeah, that's
underrated. And then her husband actually runs homes for like the disabled.
Yeah,
I guess I don't know.
Group homes, care homes. Yeah,
that kind of industry.
So adjacent to what we do here, but
and that's my
but still
stepdad.
Behavioral health.
But my actual dad, who's in Tucson, runs a company called Exodus, and he's a nurse, and this is a rehab facility.
Like a SNF, like a skilled nursing facility?
So he works in a skilled nursing facility now because he became a nurse after, but he originally opened up the rehabilitation centers because that's what he went through 20 years ago. So he went through rehab, came back into our lives, and which I'm so blessed for, by the way, because
so he works in my space.
Is that what it is?
I mean, yeah, we do. We're primarily mental health, but we also do a lot of substance use disorders.
Yeah, substance abuse is what I think he's specifically.
Oh, interesting. In Tucson?
Yeah, in Tucson.
Interesting.
Yeah.
We'll have to talk offline.
But it's definitely more like 3 or 4 houses type of thing.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, so you met in college.
Yeah.
And Lena was like, you know where it's really hot? We should go to the desert. I know it's hot here, but we should go where it's really hot.
So literally how this went down is we were sitting down, had a list of things that we both were not negotiating on, what we wanted, where we lived, where can we raise a family, where is it friendlier for a business to be, where do I don't know if I would use the term morals, or where is the financial freedom going to be, and where is there a little bit of metro but a little bit of sticks.
Yeah.
And we looked at Ventura County, Thousand Oaks.
Mm-hmm.
That was one place we really liked. We looked at Scottsdale, and we stayed in these places for like a week.
Yeah.
And then I remember when we hit Scottsdale, we stayed at the Palms right here.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called? 3 Palms?
The Royal
Palms, yeah. And
I
immediately,
worked there when I was like 20.
and Lena's like, I love this place. And I was like, okay. So we didn't even go to Texas. Texas was our third.
Where in Texas?
To be honest with you, Lena was not even open to the idea of Texas just because of the, it would have had to been like Dallas or Austin or one of those areas.
Houston, yeah.
As soon as we visited Scottsdale, it was like game over. We knew. And we visited here in like 2014.
So it was very intentional to move here. You were putting intention towards your future marriage,
Totally.
towards building a family, towards building a business, and you chose Scottsdale. That's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah. And it honestly, we knew nobody out here. It was just a shoot from the hip.
What year was that? What year did you guys touch down here?
We moved here in 2016.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And then you move here, you decide, and what are you doing for work now?
Nothing. So when I was in school, I actually started accumulating equipment and putting them in a storage unit
Sure.
from other older docs that were retiring and whatnot, because I knew that's what we were going to open up. And when we came out here, literally, Lena's like, we got to get a job. We got to get a job. And I'm like, I'm not getting a damn job. My job is to find financing. And that was literally my job for about, I'd say 5 months, was to just find a bank that would be willing to actually give us a loan.
Yeah.
And each person I met would just introduce me to somebody else, and it would just create this rebounding effect.
Well, break it down for me, because a lot of the people that are, accumulating in our viewer base are people that are rebuilding their lives and building careers. So walk me through that. So to get financing, you're looking to get how big of a loan to do what exactly?
So we were looking at renting or leasing a retail space.
Mm-hmm.
So we put in on offers on 3 spots, and the average rent was anywhere from $3,500 to $5,000 for about 1,700 square feet to 2,000 square feet in Scottsdale at that time. It's not the case now.
No.
And I wanted to cover the build out. I wanted to cover a little bit, maybe 6 months of income and all the equipment and stuff I would need. Now, the amount of money I would need, we were negotiating with all the locations who would give us the most TI, who would give us the most free rent, et cetera. But we had a number of 150,000. We were trying to borrow 150,000. We didn't have the family.
To build the dream.
We had a little bit of savings, but we didn't have anyone who can say here. So it had to come from a bank. And literally an SBA 7A loan was probably the only option, which was tough in itself because they just don't give loans to people who don't have jobs, especially in the industry. And finally, I think the 49th bank was the one that actually...
You talked to 49 banks? Rejected 48 times?
Yep. Credit score went from like an 820 to like a 590 just because of how many times it got ran.
All the hard pulls.
Yeah.
That's wild.
But finally, a bank in Mesa, National Bank of Arizona out there, they were like, we'll give it a shot. I was like, oh shit, this is real.
Tell me, what kind of commitment, what does commitment and resilience and determination look like in month 4 of your 5-month search, and you're on bank, you just got rejected by bank 48.
Yeah.
What does morning coffee conversations sound like?
I would say more than the morning coffee conversations, it's laying there in bed, making sure you don't drag that burden on whoever you're with, and making sure she still has the capability to have that support within you, and not just let her know the reality of the situation, right?
Yeah.
So just laying there with your eyes wide open, like, oh shit, questioning yourself. But the reality is this, and I saw this enough to where I knew it would eventually work, was, and I mean this in a sincere way, I've seen the dumbest people become uber successful because they're consistent. I've seen the smartest people not become successful because they lack consistency. You eventually will get it. You just keep hitting it.
Shots
It's
on
going to
goal.
happen.
Repetition.
But I will say it was draining, man. And I'm glad I was oblivious to what was happening, to the situation in general, because I didn't know how much work it was going to take. Now knowing that, of course it'd be easier because we have capital, et cetera, but it would be a lot harder to go into that knowing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. That night, naivety.
Yeah.
Being naive to how daunting something might be is kind of an advantage.
I agree. I totally agree.
So you run the business with Lena,
Yep.
with your wife. How do you two manage that dynamic, both as partners
Yeah.
and as business partners?
It definitely changed over the years. We initially started by splitting load. And then as we got deeper into the practice and realized things that she liked and things that I liked, we found our strengths and we kind of went towards those. So she runs the admin, she runs the insurance, she runs the overall billing, intake, etc. And I strictly am just like the workhorse. I treat. And
She treats some, right?
yeah, pregnant moms and the kiddos.
Yeah.
But like
she's worked on, I think, all three of my kids.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of her special knit, and she finds fulfillment in that. But the majority of the other treating is where I go.
Do you think it's been good for your marriage?
Totally. Totally. I mean, I hear it all the time. Oh, I don't know how you can work and be around someone that long. Man, it's such a blessing to have that person, not only that you can trust, but like if shit hits the fan, you know they're there. It's unquestionable. I have my back turned the whole time and I know it's going to be fine. Not to say that you can't have an employee like that, but it's just different.
It is different. And I would echo the same experience working with my wife for many years. It's been
Awesome.
great.
Yeah. It's a blessing.
All right. So all the rejection in the beginning, I would love to know what else did no one warn you about that's come up?
Yeah. How long it was going to take to actually start to put yourself on payroll, and how long it was going to take to actually start living the life that some of the mentor groups would tell you you'd be living.
What mentor groups?
I was in a mentor group through that specifically for chiropractic.
Okay.
It was called Amped, which was awesome for us opening up initially.
Yeah.
Going to their offices, taking pictures of all their drawers, basically seeing everything they've done and trying not to completely reinvent the wheel, but doing the technique that we do instead of doing their technique was probably the only thing we changed. So, but
you got some hacks, some playbook stuff.
yeah, it's
cool.
You got to surround yourself with those people. Especially if you didn't come from that, you gotta be around those people because they will just catapult you so much farther.
People that have done a version of what you're trying to do.
Yeah, or been somewhat form of successful from the ground up.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Who you keep in your circle that you're with regularly has a big impact on how breakable the ceilings are.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, man.
So how long did it take till you got paid, till you got on payroll?
Well, I'll start by saying we spent every weekend for probably 3 years working. So Monday through Thursday and then Friday through Sunday, doing business lunches, doing events, vendor shows, etc.
Just getting the name out there.
Yeah, just introducing ourselves. We're not like the most salesy people, but it was more like just making connections.
Yeah, but you guys are awesome.
Being part of chambers, things like that. And it paid off. But I would say 3 to 4 years, it was like, oh, hey, do you want to put ourselves on payroll now? Or we got the education from our CPA. He's like, hey, you guys need to do this now. And
were you just taking draws? I mean, how did you pay your mortgage?
Yeah, of course. We were taking draws based off of what we filed at the end of the year and telling us how much we had. And but we were the first couple of years were rough.
We do a monthly meeting called Community Unity, and it's a lot of healthcare providers.
Okay.
Varying, a lot of it's behavioral health, but we work with a lot of people that are adjacent. Love to have you guys come check it out.
Okay.
Present your business
there. Of course.
If you or Lena can spare the time. We do it once a month towards the end of the month.
That's easy. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to have you guys over. Showcase what you guys are doing. All right. So you get started 2016. Mm-hmm. When were you able to breathe?
The 5th year. I'd say the 4th and 5th year.
Which would have been 21?
20.
20?
I would say 20. Weirdly enough, COVID exploded our office.
I think that's when we became clients. Yeah. My family.
It took off. I mean, people were working from home. They were sitting in desks. It just started creating issues. There was a huge influx into Scottsdale, which you saw.
True.
I mean, the economy changed here completely. And all the groundwork we'd done prior to that, it just started to kind of compound, and it changed it drastically. Like we doubled overnight.
That's so rad.
Yeah.
Okay, so 2020, things are going better at work.
Yeah.
You guys can breathe.
Yeah.
You're like, we're going to make it. I know that feeling.
We're not going anywhere.
It happened for us in 2020 also,
Did
actually.
it?
It's just similar timeline. We opened in 2018, and summer of 20, we paid, because we were on a loan, we paid back our last payment in summer of 20.
That's awesome.
And
yeah, we did right around that time, a little before. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. All right, so let's talk chiropractic.
Okay.
I don't know anything about the nuts and bolts of chiropractic. Here's my chiropractor story. I have never trusted and this would be good for people that are watching and don't know anything about chiropractic. Yep. So I have never trusted chiropractics. I've always looked at it as sort of a and I'm also just skeptical of everyone.
As you should be.
I don't.
Yeah.
There's a lot of doctors that I still take, with a grain of salt. I have. I'll say this publicly. There's a guy by the name of Paul Flatley, Dr. Paul Flatley, DO. He's a veteran at Honor Health. He's an emergency department veteran.
Okay.
He's been around forever. He's in private practice. He's an entrepreneur now. He's got a couple other practices going. But his opinion, his medical opinion, I trust above every doctor I've ever met.
Love it.
And then in descending order is everybody. And chiropractors are like down here.
Yeah.
This is my early mind, years ago. My wife and I went to China in 2019. And on the way over, we rode first class on the way back. On the way over, we rode business class, where it didn't really lay all the way down.
Yeah.
And I must have slept. I fell asleep for a little while, just in a funny position. And see, that was 2019. So I'm like 41, 42 years old. Never had back problems of any kind. And I must have had an impingement.
Yeah.
So it's just feeling like a little numbness, in the tip of my thumb, which is weird. Never had that before. We're in China 10 days. We come back. It's kind of extending into my other fingers.
Okay.
And I'm not doing anything about it.
Yeah.
Weeks are going by now, and my left hand is getting numb. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, now I'm starting to get nervous.
What is this?
Yeah. So my wife's like, you should go see a chiropractor. And I'm like, oh my God, eye roll. So I go see a chiropractor. First guy couldn't help me at all.
Yep.
And he whipped my neck. He did a bunch of stuff to me. And I left there thinking that was a bad idea.
Yeah.
And then I found another guy, because it didn't fix the problem.
Yeah.
But I gave another shot. I went to this other guy. He does this stuff where he puts electrodes on you and gets you all loosened up.
Yeah.
And he fixed it.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, chiropractic is real.
Okay.
My hand came back.
Okay.
And I'm like, all right, chiropractic is real.
Yeah.
I hope I don't ever have to see one again. Then, how did I do this? I hurt myself with a massage ball. It looks like a racquetball, but it's solid.
Yeah.
I was laying on the ground, trying to work out a knot in my back.
Yeah.
And I did something to where I couldn't hold my head up.
Okay.
Could not hold my head up. It was to hold it even it was painful.
Painful.
And Nicole had just started seeing you guys. Mm-hmm. And I went to you, and of course I got x-rays first, and I was like, oh, it's never going to get to it. And you saw me the next day right after that, and you fixed it first time.
Yeah.
And I was like, not only is chiropractic real, I am never seeing another chiropractor until this guy retires or moves. So if you don't trust chiropractors are like any other practitioner in medicine. Yep. Some are better than others, and this dude is the shit. Okay, so me knowing only that, you practice the Gonstead method.
Yeah.
Am I pronouncing that right?
You are, yeah.
What the hell is that?
So within chiropractic, there's a ton of techniques.
Rolfing, is that a chiropractic thing? Where they loosen up all your myofascia?
It sounds like it. Yeah, it sounds like it. Let me tell you, there's some weird shit out there. There's some weird chiropractic stuff out there. And just to go back to what you said earlier, man, I mean, I graduated with 100 and something people, and I maybe trust 3. And I hate saying that, but that's the reality.
Sure.
Yeah. So within Gonstead, the main thing to understand is it's a biomechanical technique, meaning you don't try to move a segment in a direction it should not be moved. It's not natural to take something and rotate it completely.
Like I do when I twist.
Mostly with like to a complete end range. This is okay. I mean, you're not really like shoving it into a position, right? You're getting it and it just kind of separates and gaps and you get a little bit of a click.
Yeah.
But when you take a neck, you lay them on their back, you flex them forward and you rotate. There's only one thing that can happen. You're creating hypermobility. Yeah, it'll create a feel-good sensation to some because it creates an endorphin dump, but it's not corrective in nature. I mean, if the head's already falling forward, to me, it doesn't make sense to flex it forward to move it more. And the reason why it worked for you is because when you find the particular segment that's truly the issue, not compensating, and it's actually sitting in a particular direction, and you move it in that direction, and you do it with a minimal rotation, the disc loves it a lot more. It's biomechanically correct. It's harder to do, so the schools don't teach it as much. They're refusing to teach it because
Really?
it's easier to teach a monkey how to rotate something. So that's what most of the classes are teaching is what they call diversified. And it's helped tons of people, but it's so much harder to be specific when you're getting that unzipping sound.
Wow.
Instead of like a thunk. And that's why when like, for instance, when I do your neck, I'll do it in a chair. We'll laterally lean you and we'll push the segment forward. And it makes more sense to move the segment the way you go through your day. So Gonstead himself was actually an engineer. He focused on the pelvis. He did a pretty thorough analysis on the pelvis and based everything up from there. And that's kind of what you went through.
Interesting. All right. And that's why you prefer it over everything else.
I prefer it because it's what helped Lena. When we were in school, she suffered from migraines for about 4 years, went to...
in chiropractic school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And she had a chiropractic issue.
She went back to Canada. None of the neurologists could help her. They kept trying to give her migraine meds. And I mean, they acted as if the girl had a deficiency in migraine medication. It was the weirdest thing. And she'd come back and see all these chiros and none of them were able to help. Same thing, twist her up, put rags on her, pull on her head, just shooting from the hip. And then she saw a Gonstead chiropractor. Same thing. One time, completely dropped the headache down. And it was just like game over for her. We were like, okay, well, this seems very hard to do. And if something seems very hard to do, this must be the way we should do it.
Going the hard way. I like it.
Well, it's how chiropractic was founded. That's what people don't realize. It's not a mobility thing. It's not a let's instill motion. It's correcting the segment and reinstilling the nervous system's ability to promote itself, clearing the pathway.
I'm not going to throw stones at chiropractors, but I've been to a few weird ones.
I believe it. The ones that bother me, and this is both in the PT and chiro world, are the ones who don't get the patient to what they need.
Yeah.
If you can't help them,
right.
Or more importantly, the ultimate way to be healthy is to have an approach with many practitioners. But everyone's so scared to lose the money that it's just like, oh, no. keep coming here. It's silly.
Yeah. I see that in lots of different forms of healthcare.
I'm sure.
Where it's easier to keep them in your sphere out of fear. Whereas, if you can just look at your network and provide the best possible outcome for your patient or your client, you're building not only better outcomes for the person.
Totally.
You're also helping to support the community you're in.
Yep.
And then they likewise do the same with you. That's been our experience.
You fix somebody by getting them to who they want, they become the biggest referral partner for you. It's like free marketing. It's so silly to want to keep them and it fail and them have a bad experience and then feel the way you felt.
Yeah.
It's silly.
Yeah. Yeah. I went to at least 2, if not 3 that couldn't fix when I hurt myself.
Yeah.
Pushed on I think it was in my upper neck, lower,
T1,
just below my head. Yeah. I was trying to rub a knot out with one of those balls and I must have like pushed something out of place. You're the one that fixed it. And I've been a believer ever since.
Awesome.
What would you say are the types of patients that benefit the most from what you do?
Anyone who has a spine, man. What I'm seeing mostly now is people who are stuck at desks. The world's kind of gone to that. People are working from chairs, they're sitting. And when you're doing that for 7, 8, 9, 10 hours, it's and then you're going home to relax and then sitting again. It's not natural. We're meant to move. So I think that's probably predominantly what I'm seeing now, what you had across the board. Maybe some low back stuff here and there, but mostly neck.
Yeah. You mentioned a lot of people coming in because they're sitting so much.
Yeah.
What are some things, like I've seen on the internet, I've seen like stand-up desks and stuff like that. What are some things people could do to be more preventative around not needing to go to the chiropractor so much?
I would say the most important thing that one can do to actually avoid most forms of corrective health practitioners is just move correctly. And what does that mean? Get up, get down correctly. When you're standing, don't always lean to the same side. When you're sleeping, don't always roll and rotate or lay on your belly and have a non-neutral position. Neutrality is important. And with gravity, if you're unneutral and let's say you favor a lean, mostly a lot of women do that, or people in sales love to lean because it's a softer position. If you're not conscious about your position and focusing on being neutral, your body forms itself and the brain will always keep the eyes level. It would always keep them neutral. So when you lean, it does this, and then everything else has to compensate around it until eventually it says, I've had enough of that shit. This hurts. And then you get your pain and you end up in my office. So if you can focus on getting up, getting down correctly, not picking things up in some weird rotational way out of the laundry basket or whatever it may be, that'll keep you out of the office.
So what are you seeing recently, in the recent years, with so many people looking at phones all the time, hunched over, looking at screens?
It's definitely changed the health industry as a whole, because we've all gone to more of a static position. And with kids especially, when I first opened up in 2017 and compared to now, I mean, we're starting to see things in the younger generation that we typically would see in the 30, 40, 50-year-old generations.
Things like what?
Reverse curves in the neck. I mean, you're supposed to have like this banana-shaped forward, it's called a lordotic curve in the neck, and now we're actually seeing it go forward because, we have people have their head down and they're either on a tablet, on a Chromebook, on a phone, and everything's in their hands.
Or fucking...
Yeah, dude. The kids, the shit I'm seeing on the back of their skull, they're growing horns. They're growing like bones that are extending on the back of their head because they're so flexed forward. The body's trying to create a calcification to try and grab their head and pull it back. Yeah. On 8-year-olds.
That's wild.
It's crazy. They're going to be an interesting group when they're 30.
The iGens?
Yeah.
Even not the iGens, the alphas?
Yeah. The alphas and the ones right before them.
iGens, yeah, they're all like in their 20s and
yeah,
they're starting to age now.
You can see, but a lot of them are like weirdly like
rounded forward. Yeah.
So if you, once again, going back to our thing about putting your body in a position for too long, the brain thinks that's the normal and it shifts it that way. So we're starting to see like growths or like calcium horns on the back of necks trying to attach to the cervical spine because it's the body's laying down calcium to create stability and it's getting dense because of their heads being down. And this is in 8, 10, 12-year-olds.
That is bonkers.
Yeah, you never would see that back maybe 10 or 15 years ago.
Assuming the child could correct the issue in terms of like not looking down all the time, how do you get rid of the calcification?
That's above my pay grade. I mean, and honestly, you can't really say that you can get rid of calcifications.
Interesting.
I have seen them reabsorb if they're in the beginning stages, if they're like thin enough. But if they have good disc space and their spine is still not like degenerated enough, then you can correct these things. You can totally correct. You just do the opposite of what you've been doing. Now, it doesn't mean you like, but I mean, you stay neutral, you move neutral, and you focus on using your eyes or bringing the phone up to your head, opposed to having your head down.
Yeah.
Don't move your body towards the object. Move the object towards you because it just makes you stay more neutral.
That's good advice.
Yeah.
And with a standing desk, being able to stand, sit, and just not get too static in one place for too long.
Exactly. I love them. I love anything that can get someone to move. Do I like standing more than sitting? No, I don't like either more than the other. I would tell the person, do what's easier for you the most. But every 30 to 45 minutes, take a 4-minute to 15-minute change and stay in that position you don't like. So like if you like to sit for 40 minutes, then get up for 10 and stand and work there, then go back down. Because it's not about sitting. It's about getting your brain to not turn off the posterior spine, because then you're like, it just shuts off and it atrophies. It doesn't do its job anymore. It's interesting when I ask people, because when I shoot an image standing up, I can see it weight bearing and you can see their drops and twists. I'm like, hey, like, don't lean to this direction anymore. And when you're sitting at home, don't favor the couch this way, because I know you're going home and sitting in the same spot every night. You got to go out of your way and switch spots, maybe with your wife or your husband or whoever it may be.
Gosh, we all do that. I'm sure I do.
Yeah.
That.
Oh, we all do. We all do. Yeah. Look at the way you get out of the car or how you sit in the car. You can look at some of these cushions in the car and they're actually formed to your sitting position.
Yeah.
And especially in the cars you've had a long time. And that can screw you up as well. So just focusing on neutrality, getting up, getting down, changing position, having your brain be able to keep things turned on. That's the whole premise of the sit to stand desk, is to be able to move and not be stuck. Also the tread desks, same thing.
Tread desk?
You've seen those?
Nope.
1 mile an hour, half a mile an hour. It's just a repetitive.
Hey, you're getting your steps in.
Yeah, but it's so slow you won't get dizzy or nothing. But it's a lot of the CEO guys that we see.
I've never even seen one. I'm sure it's now that we've said it and my phone is nearby, I'm probably going to see an ad for one.
A couple. Yeah. There's a lot of them. They're pretty cool. I mean, if I worked in an office setting, I think I would try to swing one. But
so at what point should someone seek out a chiropractor, or is chiropractic good for everybody at some level?
The sooner the better. And one should find themselves getting checked sooner than later. Now, getting checked, what does that mean? Making sure we actually don't have any ailments and going through an analysis, or having a good chiropractor go through your structure and give you a baseline to where you're at is never a bad thing, because there are times people come in and they're doing great and we just send them home. We don't even treat them.
Right.
It's like, you don't want to beat a dead horse and move things that don't need to be moved. But some of the earliest patients we do see are 1 day, 2 days after birth. The birthing process is insanely traumatic. And if we can get them when they're young and educate the parents on how the kiddo should be moving, and mom maybe can switch sides when she's feeding, if she can control that, it'll help with the development of the baby neutrally. So the baby's not completely rotated to one side and changing their musculature and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And your wife's worked on all 3 of our kids for those reasons, because breastfeeding, side lying,
using the restroom,
dream
colic,
feeding, all that stuff, that is hard on the body, both on the mom and on the baby.
And kids heal so quick. They don't need much. They're not like you or I, where we're chronic and we've been doing the same shit forever. Like, kids bounce back quick. And a lot of times when we get a constipated baby in the office, Lena will go in, she'll adjust the sacrum bone, and the baby will fill up a diaper
instantly
right in the office. After like 4 days, the baby hasn't used a restroom. It's kind of crazy.
That's wild.
Yeah, they're pretty receptive to it.
And if I'm not necessarily feeling any kind of way, you think it would still be good to come in and get looked at?
Maybe every once or like 4 or 5 weeks, kind of get checked. But I mean, let's say you've gone through a corrective phase, you're moving well, you're doing things right, you're very proactive with the way you work. You get up, you stand, you sit, you change positions. You can mitigate a lot of that. You can extend your time. Everyone is so different. Like for me, with the loads, with the training, I have Darren check me probably every 2 to 3 weeks, because I'm throwing unnecessary loads on my body that is just not normal.
Yeah.
Right? Sitting all day is also not normal. But if you're mindful of that and you're getting up and getting down, you mitigate that and you stay out of the office.
Yeah, I don't see you a ton, but I do come in if I'm feeling out of whack.
But you're moving always.
Yeah.
You're never staying in one spot.
No, I don't. How would you now? I don't think I came to you with any objections, nor I don't know that I've come with objections when I've come to see chiropractors. But a lot of people are skeptical, the way I was about chiropractic. Any of the people that are first-time patients, they ever come to you with like, "Hey, is this going to work?"
Oh, of course.
What can you do for me?
Don't touch my neck. Don't touch my neck.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest with you, you want to meet the patient. You want to flirt with the line of doing as much as you can to help them, but meeting them where they're accepting of it. Because if you cross that line, it doesn't matter if you're doing the right thing. They're going to be like, hell with you.
Yeah.
They're already tightening up. It just doesn't make sense. But of course, there's objections everywhere. And I look at them a little differently than most. I appreciate them.
Yeah.
Because I do the same thing when I walk into a medical office.
Totally.
So.
Yeah, once you know a thing or two about a thing or two, you don't just take everything at face value. You got to
prove to me why we're doing what we're doing, and there better be an investigation of why we're doing it. So build the evidence, show me the proof. Like that makes it a little bit harder for someone to reject something.
Totally.
So
let's see here. How'd you come up with the name Pure Life?
we actually came up with it because we tried to go back to the roots of chiropractic and to make it very known that it's pure chiropractic. It's strictly chiropractic. When you're coming to the office, you're getting chiropractic. You're not getting this, that, and everything else.
It's not a med spa.
Exactly. Yes, because it really is a benefit to us and clarity to the patient when they know exactly what they're getting and what helped them.
And so you're chiropractor, your wife's chiropractor, your brother's now a chiropractor, and he works with you guys.
Yeah.
How's that dynamic played out? Has that been good?
It's good, man. Surprisingly, like him and Lena click well. Like they spend more time together up front. Of course, it's the typical, brother relationship, flip each other off in the hallway and kind of smile and get back to it. But once again, it's great to have him there because I can trust him and he can trust me, and it's a great dynamic.
You have 2 dogs there.
I do.
Are they chiropractors?
No, but I will say this. I've had many patients tell me that's the reason they come to the office.
It's because they love the dogs.
They're like, we love French
adorable.
Bulldogs, and one of them's wild and the other one's great.
Are they pugs?
French Bulldogs.
French Bulldogs.
Yeah.
They're like so ugly, they're cute.
Yeah, same as a pug. Like,
and they're like muscular. And they're little.
Goofy, smush face.
Yeah, smush face. They're so cute.
Yep.
So we talked about some of the unexpected challenges. What's been a pleasant surprise in business since you've been doing it?
Me and you actually talked about this recently. Was the building, was making the move.
Cool, because that's one of my questions too. Well, tell me about the first building.
Okay.
Tell me about your first
So
office.
we originally were on the res.
Over off the 101.
Yeah, Salt River res. And a great area because it's just a perfect artery for people south, people north. And it was perfect for us when we needed to grow. But rent started around $3,500 and shot up to $6,800 over the 5 years. And being green initially, negotiating my contract and my lease and the LOI that we submitted, like I missed so much because I just didn't know. I just wanted to get open. I wanted someone that was going to give me a spot to lease.
Yeah,
they did. It was great, but when it got up to about $6,800 a month, I was like, this is a lot of money for
how many square feet?
1,900.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
That's
it
pricey.
fluctuated heavily because of triple net and cams and
it's pricey for the location, etc.
Yeah. Well, I mean, everything did change too within Scottsdale because the influx of people.
Yeah.
And they knew they can get the money. So it was just like, hey, you either pay it or not. So when we came up on our lease negotiations, we decided to look at other options.
And whose idea was it to buy the next building?
I had 2 patients. One of them was a contractor, and he came in and he was familiar with the property management group that ran it. He was asking me questions like, hey, how's it going? Do you like it here? And I was like, hey, it's fine. It's just expensive. He goes, you should, he started planting that bug. You need to leave. He's a pretty direct guy. You need to leave. You need to buy something. Go look at how much it'll cost to buy something. You need 15%, 20% down. It's going to be fine. Go look. So I did. I went and started looking, and for the size of my office, it like $4,000 a month. It was all it was to buy a building. I was like, oh shit. So I started, the patients and I have a pretty good relationship. A lot of them are friends.
Yeah.
And I just started talking about it to them. And some of them are heavily in commercial real estate. And some of them, that's just what they do is invest in that. And I had one guy who was like, hey, come meet me for coffee. And soliciting advice, like, I don't want to give people a hard time or take from them and not be able to give them something back, right? So I thought about it, sat on it, and Lena's like, you need to go, bro. You need to go. So I went and I met with him, and he's like, you need to think bigger. You need to stop thinking that you need your size. You need to think bigger. And so he was showing me the math and what it looked like to buy a bigger building that was like triple the size of what I needed and what it would look like to fill it up with tenants and how it could offset my rent and how I could be rent free. And we ended up doing that.
So now you own the building that you operate out of. Your tenants pay your mortgage.
Yep.
And you have a bigger, nicer space in a great location, and you essentially pay $0 to be in there.
Basically.
It helps your P&L a whole lot.
Yep.
And now you're real estate investors.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's definitely been the biggest blessing thus far in our entrepreneurship world.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And how long you been in the new office? About a year?
Little over almost 2 years now.
Almost 2 years.
Yeah, almost 2 years.
How would you say faith has shaped your approach to business, to family, to what you do within your business?
I would say in the last 2 to 3 years, probably the faith has gotten stronger.
Really?
And I was lukewarm. I believed in Jesus Christ, and I accepted
That's not that
him.
lukewarm.
Well, living it.
I know people that don't believe that at all.
Yeah. Well, when I started trying to live it and started feeling regret for not living it, my life got so much better when I did. And it's like all the bullshit doesn't matter.
You found some inward alignment.
Yeah, it's gonna be okay. Things are fine. So like when something goes sideways or we're slow or maybe we have a fight in a relationship, we know that the ultimate goal is something completely different and it's gonna be fine. There's no failing. You can't really fail. I don't know how else to explain it.
That's beautiful. All right. Let's talk about CrossFit. So you're athletic. You like, you studied functional medicine, or I don't know if that's the right term.
Yeah, that works.
So how long have you been interested in training?
Oh man. So I started CrossFit in like 2014. I did it for like 5 years maybe.
Yeah.
And then I made a pivot to strictly weightlifting, specifically Olympic weightlifting, clean and jerk and snatch.
Yeah.
And that's where I've stayed since.
Interesting.
Yeah, I love it. I absolutely love it.
And what does that do for you besides obviously, make you stronger, but what else has that done for you psychologically?
It's very hard to do, man. So like when you, let's say, max out on a particular movement and it takes a year to add 5 pounds, and just a technical aspect of it is it's a sense of fulfillment when you can do something that most people can't do.
Mm-hmm.
And then be competitive with it and go to nationals and do things like that.
Which you're doing.
Yeah, I went to nationals twice.
That's rad.
Yeah, thanks.
What would you say living well or, success is for you? How do you define that? How do you define successful living? Sure, of course.
That's a very interesting question. It's changed. It reminds me of the questions like, what is your purpose, right? I think in the entrepreneurial world, success has happened. Fine. It's great. We have a great life. We do things most people couldn't even dream of. But I think success for me has been attained when I got married. And when I have a kid, I think that'll be the next kind of thing.
Kids on the way, maybe?
Soon.
Praying for it?
Yeah, maybe within a year, 2 years.
Cool.
But I'm super excited about that.
You're a stable, disciplined, and driven man. So I have and Lena's amazing. I have no doubt you guys are going to be great parents.
I appreciate that, man.
Yeah. So how do you stay personally aligned with your values while competing in business?
Surrounding yourself with good people. And of course, that has changed over the years, but finding people that align with what you align with, whether it be morally, within faith and within business. And that's hard to find, the older you get.
Yeah.
Things just, you don't click with the same people you probably clicked with when you're younger, or it's a little awkward.
Yeah, the road has definitely gotten narrower.
Yeah, and that's okay. I mean, initially it was hard to kind of not say goodbye to people, but just not spend as much time with them.
Yeah.
But when you meet other couples, right, that are in the same situation as you, it is just a breath of fresh air to kind of spend time with them, smoke cigars, have pizza, whatever it may be, and just chill at home. Like, I think, and taking big trips, that's kind of been a thing we kind of been on for a while. Traveling with people. And we have a good group to where it's no stress. You do what you want to do. I'll do what I want to do. We're going to meet here for dinner though. So it's fun, man.
That sounds awesome. What's the most recent place you were in?
Switzerland.
How was it?
Yeah, we did Switzerland.
Was it summer or winter?
We did summer.
Probably gorgeous.
It was beautiful, man. We saw a lot of like Zurich, Interlaken, couple other places up there, and then we shot down to Lake Como and Milan.
Incredible. I've never been to either of those places.
Beautiful. Yeah, it was cool to see. And now we want to see the rest of Italy because we only saw those 2 places in Italy. So,
do you have like distant relatives in Italy?
Sicily.
In Sicily, right?
Yeah, my mom's side's from there.
Nice.
Yeah.
So if you go back there, you could like find some relatives and be like,
I've never been in contact with them, so it'd be a little
weird.
It'd be a little weird. My mom more so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have any trips planned right now?
Yeah, we're doing Lebanon, Dubai, and Abu Dhabi in October, November.
Sick.
Yeah. Yeah,
Sick.
that'll be perfect. Lena can speak it, so it's all good.
we have not been to the Middle East yet, Nicole and I. So we have not been to Dubai and Abu Dhabi are on the list of places we'd like to go.
Yeah, it's been on the list for a while for us.
Yeah.
We figured we'd take that one before kids, so.
If you could go back and tell your younger self in high school, so if you could just phone call time machine, iPhone time machine, call 16-year-old Moses, what would you tell him? Assuming you can't have a 2-hour conversation.
Yeah.
What would you tell him?
That's tough because, ultimately the point I would want to get across is that all of this bullshit you think is so important is not important at all. One, I wish I would have gotten married sooner. I wish I would have had kids sooner and not been so stuck on thinking that everything needed to be perfect before then. Granted, it's gonna go smooth now, but I would have loved to already have had 8 years with my kid.
How old are you?
I'm 36.
I had my first child. I was 37.
Yeah. Damn.
What would you tell a young person or any person who is putting their life together and wants to, like so many people, get better in their career, maybe choose a career? To the person who is essentially just, for lack of a better way to say it, has just pulled their head out of their ass recently and decided, you know what, I'm going to take my life more seriously. I want to make more money. I want to take better care of myself. What would you tell to the youngish person who's ready to make a change in their life financially, in their career?
This might sound cliche, but like, build a relationship with Jesus, bro. Like, and I know that sounds, to some that might sound wild, but until you've done it, you'll understand it. Like, I wish I would have gotten that advice sooner. Lucky for me, I was around people who were devoted Christians and like had big families, et cetera, but I personally was never given the advice to focus on that, because life got so much easier after that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest advice I would probably give is like, hey, open the book, read it, try to understand it, especially the Second Testament. I know some people would like to read it from front to back, but Second Testament and the coming of Christ that's the most forgiving, merciful, individual God you'll ever encounter. And you will learn what love is if you learn about Jesus Christ.
It's a beautiful thing. And you've been at it about 2 years?
Heavily, yeah.
Yeah, we're on the same timeline. I've had a more agnostic relationship with God, very spiritual, a lot of prayer.
Totally.
And for 20 years. And it was just about little over 2 years ago that I fell in love with the church and have a real relationship of my own with Jesus. And I never did before.
Yeah.
I was pretty anti-religious, honestly. I was one of those 12-steppers that was like, God of the universe, bro. It's all energy.
I was the same. That was just like, all the books are the same. All the books are the same. And then I picked up the Quran, read through part of that, and I was like, okay. Judaism, read through that. And then I was like, okay. Read through the Bible, and I was like, oh, this is different.
The majority, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure people on the internet will correct me. The Quran, the Torah, and the Old Testament are largely taken from the same manuscripts.
Yeah, they're very, very, very similar. The only difference is like, you have Muhammad, who basically states that God spoke directly through him. And
Sure.
he speaks it out, right? And then you have Judaism, which is the Ten Commandments.
God of Moses and the laws,
Mosaic
laws
law,
of Leviticus and all that. Yeah.
Right. And they're similar in a sense, but they're very, very, very different. But Christianity in the Second Testament is different.
Totally different
And I
story.
say this because Jesus is for everybody. That's not the same for every other religion.
Right.
Not at all. Muslims strictly focus. Islam is strictly focused to Arabs. When you look at Judaism, it's Jews. Yeah, you can convert to it, but it's not as open in the sense of like being forgiving, being merciful towards an individual like Christianity is.
There's a lot of things that I'm fascinated by in the New Testament.
Sure.
But the concept that I've really fallen head over heels in love with is, Jesus came to fulfill the law, right? Not to get rid of it,
Yep.
but to fulfill the law. So everything we've done up in basically speaking for a lot of people,
Yeah.
primarily Jews at the time,
Yeah.
but all the rules, all the prior covenants, those are all done. Those are completed.
Yep.
Now we have a new covenant.
Right.
And it's really, really simple.
Very
Just
simple.
like Jeremiah back in the Old Testament prophesied, the law will be written on men's hearts.
Yeah.
So I tell my children, because my kids, they go to church and they ask a lot of questions and
Great.
they're very curious. Yeah, they love
Great.
it. Especially my oldest daughter really loves it. And we were talking about new covenant. What does that mean? I said, well, the law is written on your heart. And what does that mean? I said, well, you don't even need your mommy and daddy to know the difference between right and wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I said, well, that's Jesus put that there. That's there. That is the new covenant.
Yeah. It's innately there. Yeah.
You follow. The sacrifice has already been made. And that's where you get into like the old school, like the Old Testament stuff. Like before this, there was atonement, there was sacrifice, there was all this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Today, just hear the call and follow.
Exactly.
So a lot simpler. I don't have to earn my way.
Yeah. No, we're broken. There's no way we can live up to the expectation of God. And that was the whole purpose of Jesus coming, because he knew, like, okay, these people can't do it, so let me help them get there.
And I honestly didn't hear that message when I was a kid. I was exposed to church when I was a kid, and that wasn't the message I heard. I heard a very Levitical view of Christianity. It was, you have all these rules. If you don't do these things, you're probably going to burn in hell. And I wasn't good at stuff. I was like an adopted kid, budding alcoholic.
Yeah.
I was already kind of I was already hitting the self-destruct lever, you know?
A little rebellious, yeah.
Yeah, and by the time I had really solidified by the time I was a teenager, I was like, yeah, I'm going to hell for sure. Or if I'm lucky, none of this is real.
Roll the dice.
Yeah. I mean, and I can't speak for anybody else. I don't know if anybody else is in that camp where they're like, I hope it's not real because I'm damned. I hope it's not true because I don't want to go to hell, and I don't have a way to do anything else.
Yeah.
But it occurred to me that God has shown his light and his love on me for all these years in sobriety. I behave like a Christian. And all I have to do, and I don't have to, all that God's calling me to do is just acknowledge that God came to the earth as a man and completed all the prior covenants and made a new one, a real simple one that I'm already following.
Yeah.
Like, why am I afraid to say? Yeah. I'm like in the parking lot. I've been in the parking lot of Christianity for like 18 years.
I'm with you there. That's so true. I mean, sometimes I wanted to back out of the parking lot to go to church, and I'd be like, the judgment that would come from some of these churches. Just like,
that's what I was exposed
crazy.
to when
like,
I was a
we're
kid.
on the same team here, bro.
Yeah. But my cousin, so my uncle was a pastor. He's died a long time ago now. Was a wonderful human being.
Mm-hmm.
His kids are pastors' kids.
Yeah.
My cousins, two girls, they grew up. The older sister, Caitlin, marries another pastor's kid.
Nice.
And they're awesome. They're some of the greatest people we know. And I'm like, this is a couple years ago when I'm struggling with like, am I a Christian? Like, I live by Judeo-Christian values, but I have never been comfortable with religion. And then it became this buzzword that pastors were like, it's about a relationship, not religion. It's like, dude, stop. Like, you're just repeating things other people say. Yeah. Like, I'm not, right? Some of that's my old skepticism. I'm just like, you're not tricking me, bro.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to basically my cousin's husband, and I'm like in tears. I'm like, dude, because I'm reading, right? I'm reading the gospel, and I'm like having an experience with it. And he's kind of laughing at me. He's like, bro, I've never known a non-Christian that's as Christian as you are. He's like, you're just afraid to say it.
Yeah.
I was like, really? Is that where I'm at?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, bro. He's like you walk in so much more faith and with so much of a servant's heart than most of the Christians I go to church with. He's like, you're already there.
Yeah.
You're just afraid to say so.
Yeah. Listen to that.
Gosh. And I was like, man, I'm like crying. I'm like, I think I might be a Christian. Yeah. It's been a wild experience, man.
Yeah.
So then, have you been baptized and all that?
I've not.
Is that in the works? Is that something you're contemplating?
You know, it's funny you ask it. I fought it for a very long time. I was like, no way in hell you needed that.
Totally.
The scripture says, the criminal next to him on the cross, he didn't get baptized, and the Lord said he'd be in heaven with him. And I tried to justify it, justify that I shouldn't do it, right? Or that I don't need to do it, per se. Now, it's funny you bring that up, because the more I get asked the question or think about it or read, I find myself wanting to.
Yeah.
And I feel like I would want Lena to do it with me.
Yeah.
So that's...
Is she into it?
Definitely into it, but I'm so much more into it than she is, and I feel like it's my job to make sure that I know what the hell I'm talking about, and
100%.
It's my job to make sure that I'm guiding her. And for the longest time, I wasn't in it, so I wasn't able to explain to her or be the person that we were intended to be as men for her when it comes to the gospel. So I think there'll be a time, but I also think, and maybe this is a bad way to say this and people won't be okay with it, but I think it's important that I have a good amount of knowledge about what I'm reading in the gospel, other than just knowing a couple verses here and there, because I want to make sure that my family is completely centered around it, to the point to where they can come to me if they need something, not to be a preacher, not to be a pastor, but to be...
but to legitimately be the head of your household. To
lead, yeah.
Yeah, to lead.
And I would love for her to do that with me eventually.
Well, if and when you're ready, I know a guy. I think you know the same guy.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a good guy, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, he's fantastic. Changed my life.
Yeah.
There was something else I was going to ask you. It just escaped my mind as we were talking about getting dunked. So if I want to go get seen by you and your team, do you accept insurance? Is it all self-pay? How does it work?
So I do accept insurance, specifically in my offices, and there are other ones that do accept other forms of insurance, but keep in mind, you're now subjected to an individual behind a desk who's dictating your care. With like things like Medicare, believe it or not, a PPO plan through Medicare actually covers the adjustment, no questions asked a lot of times, which is nice.
Because they see it as evidence-based.
Yeah, but now the person's 65 years old and should have had more care prior to that. But I mean, for them, it covers. It does a good job.
What about regular commercial plans, the Blue Crosses and UHCs?
They are all so different. So like, for instance, I can tell you UHC has a cap on the practitioner, meaning you can charge $55 a visit, and that's it. But they're subjected to their copays and their deductibles. And even then, each plan is so different. Blue Cross, Blue Shield, also very different. There's 50, 60, 70 different types of plans out there. And what people don't understand is the insurance company will tell you, oh, you have 20 visits. But then there's a subsidy group called American Specialty Health. And they're like the fucking mafia of insurance, pardon my French. But what they do is they come into the chiro without ever contacting the patient, and they tell them, oh, we've seen this condition. It only takes $5 in the US to do this, according to the statistics. And then once you get to that fifth visit, they stop their care, make you submit a medical necessity. A month goes by, and then the patient can finally come in for maybe 2 more visits, and they'll do that until they hit 20 visits. So they're finding ways to not pay is what they're doing.
You're fighting for utilization. You're fighting for authorization.
Yeah, but it's sad because insurance companies should not be dictating an individual's health. And we try to explain that to people. Like, if you want to be healthy, you'll most likely go to offices that don't take insurance. Same with your naturopaths, same with your DOs, same with your nutritionists. Like, it's very hard to find someone who can create a business to keep open and feed their mouths and still fully be insurance based.
Right.
Because one, the reimbursement is going to be so low that it's not going to feed them. And two, it's going to be for things that don't matter. Like,
and you can correct me if I'm wrong. I was imagining that it would be, I was thinking authorization and length of treatment. Like, it's going to be based off of treatment planning, and they've got their own model for what they've seen, their own diagnostic. Like, you're probably using diagnosis code, and then they're saying, well, for that, we usually authorize this many visits.
And even then, a lot of insurance companies don't believe in imaging. They want that avoided completely, and it's for their benefit. I mean, if you take an image, you open up Pandora's box, and whatever's on that image, now they're liable for, and they're going to have to cover. So if I write an MRI script or an authorization for one, and I'm getting a call from Aetna, and they're like, well, why are you doing this? And I'm explaining to them, they'll deny it, then they'll let me appeal it, and then I'll have to have a phone call with a nurse or a doctor
peer-to-peer
and argue it. And every time that happens, it usually goes right through. But it's super interesting that they create these loopholes so that eventually someone just says, hell with it, I'm not going to order it.
Yeah.
But what's funny is an MRI will cost you $150 cash pay compared to your $2,000 deductible, that they're going to bill. It's quite insane, but they do it to protect themselves, because if they allow these images to go through and there are things on them, now they're covering everything that comes with it, surgery, etc.
Yeah. That's wild.
It is wild.
If people want to find you, how do they find you? How do they find all that is Dr. Moses Corbel and Lena and Pure Life Chiropractic? How do we find you?
You have the Instagram, which is Pure Life AZ.
Pure Life AZ on Instagram.
Yeah.
And then what's the website?
www.purelifeaz.com.
Awesome.
Simple enough. And then I'm Dr. Moses Corbel on Instagram.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here with us today.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it.